Good up.
This is Channel 253.
On this episode of the Grit and Grain podcast.
You know, people always ask me, they'll point and they go, "Oh, what's that beer all about?" And I'd tell them where the brewery was and the name of the guy who brewed the beer and what kind of hops they had in it and everything like that. And I was like, maybe other people want to be this smart. maybe they don't want Kendall to be the only guy at the bar who knows fucking everything about beer. Maybe they want to know something too. So that's kind of
So we're going to start writing this down.
Yeah.
Channel 253 is member supported. I'm producer Doug Mackey, and I hope you will show your support by going to channel253.com/membership and join. Thank you.
Welcome to the Grit and Grain podcast, where we explore and celebrate the craft beer industry, community, and history in Tacoma, Washington, and surrounding Pacific Northwest areas. Thank you so much for hanging out. Let's get to it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Grit and Grain podcast, coming to you guys from Peaks and Pints in Tacoma, Washington. It just gets bigger every week. I love it. So much excitement. My name is Matt McLaren. I'm here as always with Ron Swerner.
Well, hello.
How's it going, Ron?
I'm excited to bring back the wobble.
The wobble.
All right.
Wobble, baby, wobble, baby, wobble, baby, wobble. That wobble?
That wobble.
Not that
Washington
wobble,
beer lovers.
Yeah. This is unrelated. I was at a food festival this weekend, and there was people on stage that they didn't have a plan for their entertainment, so they were just trying to get people to do dances like that, and nobody was doing it, and it was really hard to watch. But they were trying to get people to do the wobble, and nobody would do it.
Painful.
And then, as always, Bethany Carlson, our resident pro brewer and line cleaner. How's it going, Bethany?
Good. Nice to be here. Nice
Welcome
to be back.
back.
Good to have you
Thank
back. I hope you're feeling better.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, it was a bummer couple of weeks without you, but I'm glad you're back. Phaedra's on mic. How's it going, Phaedra?
Good.
Good.
Yes.
Good to see you again after Firestone Walker.
Yes.
Which you guys will hear about in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We'll recap everybody on it. It was a good weekend, though.
It was.
Glad you guys are back.
It was a good weekend.
Kind of hard not
and
to be.
fucking Phaedra, in Phaedra fashion, snuck into just everything that she could.
Snuck? Excuse me, I had a badge. I had a pass.
Oh, right.
There's no sneaking involved.
I would probably have to sneak into that invitation. For a story I'll tell you later, maybe when we get to talking about fucking up. I'll tell you a story about Firestone Walker, which the story might mean that I'll never get an invitation to that beer event, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes. Excellent.
Well, yeah, I suppose without further ado, very excited for our guest today. This is Kendall Jones from Washington Beer Blog, plus all the other things. There's just
I'm just the Washington Beer Blog and a couple other stupid things. You guys I
bet Ron has a list.
Shauna on
Yeah, I do.
a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was about a half a page.
Shauna, the boss of fucking everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw Ron's shirt with the wobble on. I go, is she bringing that back too? Is she going to bring wobble back?
I don't know.
Good
question.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Putting wrestling in it, so.
Did you guys see that video she did from the event from the venue the other day? It's like, how good is she, man?
So clever, man. I know.
Yeah, the wrestling ring just pops up and she's in it.
That's amazing. Yeah. They're killing it. She's killing it. And yeah, she is a busy motherfucker for sure.
Yeah.
Ken, thanks so much for coming down here, man. This is one that's probably long overdue for a lot of reasons. Mostly you're, I think, a lot of folks' main sort of resource for beer news in Washington, but you also have a pretty interesting connection to Tacoma that I think most people do not know. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited to get into all that. However, before we talk about all that stuff, what are you drinking there?
I'm drinking that R&D Pilsner from Fort George.
Oh, man.
It's really tasty. It's really tasty.
I think I'm grabbing that next. I couldn't help but get the Fort George and Ruse collab.
It tastes very traditionally kind of German to me.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Man, I'll be grabbing that on the break. Bethany, what do you have?
An Alaskan Pale Ale?
Alaskan?
Yes, you heard me correct.
All right. I was like, I haven't seen an Alaskan thing on draft in forever. That's awesome.
They must have just opened because I haven't heard of them.
Yeah, new brewery up in Alaska.
Yeah.
New kids on the block.
Yeah, it's quite tasty. It's good.
What do you have shorty pours over here? Is that you, Ron?
Just because Kendall's here. This is what I'm used to, having one of these in my hand and these around.
Oh, okay.
Is that a barley wine or?
No, it's just the
Just a
Washington
short pour.
beers.
Oh, the Washington
the
beers.
actual-
Gotcha.
The actual, probably one of them was 2015, 2016, all those years.
What are they, though? What are you drinking?
Yeah, what are you? What
Yeah,
is it?
this-
Well, this one is the Matchless Rainbow Jetliner, which is a Pride beer,
Oh, we're.
and we have a Pride handle for 2 months.
Oh, yeah.
And that's now on my leg. And this one is the Barrel Mountain.
You must not respect that beer too much because you spilt it all over yourself.
One for the homie.
And this is Barrel Mountain, which is back.
Oh, yay!
The Metalhead Red.
Those guys are, I'm happy to see those guys back. We just started working with them again after a couple of years of them kind of being like in and out of the market, but they were opening up a new location and just winning like tons of awards in the time that they were away, and their stuff is awesome. So very happy to be working with those guys.
Okay.
What do you have, Matt?
The Fort George Ruse
Oh, okay.
hazy IPA.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it is delicious.
There's
I'll
a
say
lot of
when-
hazy.
Like the second that I took a sip, it was like straight Sprite, like so much lemon and lime in it. So like I think they're pulling tons of lime out of the strata, but it's really good.
Love it.
Well, shit. Okay, this is a special doubleheader because there's just so much to talk about. This dude's been doing stuff in this industry in Washington for a long time. Him and Ron kind of both came from the media side. Ron is still our in-house Nardwar research person and says he has 10 plus pages.
It's actually true.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's just talk about Kendall like he's not here. Go
So I'm
ahead,
like,
Ron.
we're just gonna.
It's just like an episode of that old show. This is your life.
Yes, exactly.
Here's your kindergarten teacher. She's still alive. She's 107 years old.
Yep, hold on.
What year did you leave Tacoma?
Oh, God. Mid 60s, late 60s? Late 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what grade?
Before school, before elementary school. Yeah, I was born here, and my family moved from here to Des Moines because they couldn't quite get all the way away from Tacoma, and all their friends were still here. So I spent my formative years with family, friends all across Tacoma. But yeah, I was born at Tacoma General.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
My parents lived in a few different places around town here, and then moved up to the big city.
Yeah.
Big city?
Big, I mean, bigger
Des
city.
Moines.
Yeah, it's bigger.
Des Moines.
It's a roller coaster. Down and then up.
So yeah, you were born in Tacoma. That's amazing. That was something I didn't know until you and I kind of started talking about this, and I was like, "That's awesome." And then you even mentioned like some of the old kind of haunts were like places that you're.
Yeah, Well, I got to. I'm kind of funny compared to my siblings in that I was very curious about my family's past and stuff, So I discovered, because I asked a lot of questions that my brothers and sisters didn't, I uncovered a lot of the truth and dispelled some of the family myths about my family. But my parents landed out here right after World War II, right out of high school. They got married, and they came out on their honeymoon to visit my Aunt Mary, who lived here in South Tacoma. And they didn't come here on their honeymoon. They weren't coming to visit. They were coming to move here from Montana. They knew by the time they got married that they were leaving.
Sure.
So they came here to look for a place to live and for jobs. And they were 18 and 19 years old when they left Montana and moved out here. They literally came out here, started looking for work. My dad went back to Montana and picked up all their stuff, what little stuff they had at that age, and explained to the family that they were gone. And my mom didn't go back. She never went back to say goodbye to her family and stuff. I mean, there was no parting of the ways. It's just like it would have been a very contentious situation if they had said, we're going to move to Tacoma. It was like easier for them just to rip the Band-Aid off and come out here and then announce that they weren't coming back. That was the way they decided to do it. Yeah. But yeah, so my dad used to hang out at the Spar.
Yeah.
I was able to ask my mom some of those questions about what my family was like when they moved here to Tacoma, and that was part of it. I was like, did you ever? Because they lived over on the letter streets. I know that. She told me, yeah, we lived on she said like J Street. I'm going, I'm not sure there is a J Street. I think there is. Okay.
There is, yeah.
And I'm surprised we didn't live on K Street because I'm Kendall, my brother's Kevin, my sister's Connie, Carol, Kathy. So I'm surprised we didn't live on the K Streets. But yeah, we lived over on the letter streets, and I said, was there a tavern in the neighborhood that you guys maybe could walk to? And she said, there really wasn't a tavern, but there was a place that was like half tavern and half grocery store.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that part of the Parkway history that I don't know? I wonder. I mean, it seems like the Parkway probably has history that I don't know.
Oh, I think they have history that we all don't know. We
But
tried.
then she said, no, there was a place down in Old Town that he used to hang out. And I said, do you remember the name? And she goes, no. And I said, was it called the Spar? And she said, yeah.
That would have been one of the only spots, too, man.
Yeah,
It was, I
for
mean,
sure.
Besides the Parkway, the oldest. Well,
Yeah.
the Spar is the oldest.
His first job out here
It is
was
the
at the smelter, and he lasted like 2 days.
Yeah.
As he said the people that he saw around him that were just like a few years older than him, but looked like they were 30 years older than him, he's just like, no.
Something's wrong.
Hard work.
And they operated a store. They moved. Their first place they lived here in Tacoma was a store my mom tried to explain to me where it was, and all I could get out of her was it was across the street from what we now call the Antique Sandwich.
Oh, shit.
Okay, yeah.
And she said it was like kitty corner across Pearl. And I'm like, well, Mom, there's a gas station there. And she goes, no, our store was there. And it was a little store with the apartment on top. And they ran that. And my dad worked during the day, and my mom ran that during the day. And then my mom got pregnant, and they couldn't do that anymore. So
Sure. Just tied right into Tacoma history
I mean,
immediately,
that's
man.
so cool.
yeah,
that's amazing.
my mom's gone now, and she died, maybe 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And before she left us, I told her that, Kim and I had been going for walks regularly, my wife, Kim, that we've been going for walks regularly, down on the waterfront and stuff, and told her about Dune Park and everything. And she's like, where are you talking about? And I explained to her where I was talking about, and she's going, that's a toxic wasteland. Nobody should be walking around there. And I'm like, no, Mom, the EPA Superfund, they've cleaned it up. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. There's apartments and movie theaters. And she's like, no, what are you talking about? I'm just going to let her have that, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
I wish I could have got her up here to see it before she passed.
Sure.
Yeah.
That would have been mind-blowing, I'm sure.
Unrecognizable for sure.
Yeah.
So you ended up in Bellevue.
Eventually ended up in Bellevue,
Yeah.
after a few years in Des Moines. A few turbulent years in Des Moines. Actually, there was your history, what you don't have in your history is that I survived a tornado in Des Moines, Washington.
Wow.
You can look that up. There was a waterspout
Not
tornado
Iowa?
in like 1969 or something that came across. It jumped over Mount Rainier High School. If you guys know the neighborhood, it went over Mount Rainier High School, landed in the football field, went over Pacific Middle School, and then we lived right across the street from Pacific Middle School, and it went over our house and tore the roofs off the houses behind us and tore up a bunch of shit right behind us. I was out playing in the front yard. I think I was in kindergarten at the time, and I was home because half days, and I was out playing in the front yard, and I saw a tornado coming. I went in and told my mom. She didn't believe me and told me to go back outside. So so I'm sitting in the front yard watching this tornado come right over our house, and then it hits all the houses behind us and stuff. And so that was something I always had over my mom. It was like, you're the one who sent me out to play in a tornado.
She's like, don't come in here with that kind of information. All right? I'm busy.
Yeah.
She knew I was completely full of shit from the time I was 5 years old.
I don't remember hearing that news in Lakewood.
I had no clue.
Because I was in kindergarten, too.
If you find the pictures of it online, most of them are from the Kent Valley when it came down went over I-5 and then down into the Kent Valley. And there's some historical pictures of it as it went across the Kent Valley, over Renton, and out and dissipated over Lake Washington.
That's crazy. Yeah. I would have never let my mom forget that. Remember that time you didn't believe me about the tornado?
Yeah.
And then Mikey's
outside.
house got torn apart? I was just like,
Remember that time?
Would you like me to go play in the freeway now?
Well, they let you homebrew.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they let me drink in the I mean, my parents were the kind of parents that were, when my brother and I were in high school, we were only a year apart in age, 1 year apart in school. So we went to high school, we had all the same friends and everything. And they knew that we were drinking in the basement. And they would tell like our friends' parents. Our basement was kind of like that 70s show basement on steroids, kind of. I mean, there was not just the same 4 people there. There was a crew of like 15 people who were constantly rotating through the place. And my parents their attitude was, we would rather have you here where we know where you are and know what you're doing than have you out there doing God knows what.
Sure.
We did plenty of God knows what out there. But they would have to explain to some of our friends, like, yes, the boys were over here last night and they were drinking, but at least you know where they were and at least they were safe.
And they didn't drive anywhere.
And they were within walking distance of home. So that was, my parents were pretty cool that way. We still managed to piss them off a bunch, you know, and there was a lot of things they didn't tolerate. They didn't tolerate everything, but, you know, we did manage. We were pretty lucky that way.
What inspired you to homebrew?
So, man.
Not being 21 yet.
I wasn't 21. But the thing is I matured early. I played high school football, and I was like a senior in high school with a beard. So, I mean, I could buy beer by the time I was 17 years old. You know? In those days, they didn't check IDs as regular as they do now, especially if you knew exactly which stores to go to. So I could buy my own beer. So not being 21 really wasn't a problem. But I had some friends who their parents were kind of like my parents in that they allowed us to drink responsibly in the house and stuff. And one time I was over there and they ran out of beer, and I went down, we ran out of what I would call normal beer. We ran out of Rainier. And I went downstairs and there was nothing in the fridge that looked familiar to me. But I did grab a bottle of something that was called Samuel Smith's Oatmeal Stout. No, it was the Tadcaster Porter, the Taddy Porter. And I grabbed it and I'm going, what is this? I went up to Mr. Hinton and said, Mr. Hinton, what is this? And he said, that's a beer from England. And I was like, oh, can I have it? He said, sure. So I opened it and I drank it, and everything's been fucking a blur ever since. Because that was the beer that made me go, I didn't know beer could taste like this. I didn't know that beer could be something else. And that was a really special beer for me. And it's Mr. Hinton introducing me to that beer, and then I think one of his sons, who was one of my friends, said, oh, well, you should try some of my granddad's beer. He's coming down next week. And I'm like, what? Your granddad makes beer? And so I got turned on to the idea of home brewing, and the first batch of beer I made was just awful. I don't even know if it fermented at all. I was only 18 or 19 years old at the time. So and then I got into it. When I got into college, I got more serious about my home brewing. A couple of the guys that were like buddies of mine in college and homebrew buddies went on to work for Red Hook in those days. So,
whoa, cool.
So I kind of backed off. Like one of my guy who was my roommate and was one of my homebrew partners, like started propagating his own yeast and was getting credits from the college chemistry department at Western and stuff.
And your guys'
I'm just like, I just wanted to make some freaking beer. You guys are getting a little bit too intense for me. And then eventually it got to the point that I could go to the pub, and then after college and stuff, I could go to the pub and get good beer. And I was like, sitting there drinking like a pyramid wheat and ale, going, this is better than anything I've ever made at home. Grant's Scottish ale, this is better than anything I've ever made at home. So why do I need to make my own beer when I can come here and get better beer,
Sure.
So, and then I kind of got out of homebrewing. I lost fascination with the actual kind of craft and art of it pretty early. It was a lot more difficult then than it is now. Just sourcing ingredients and equipment and stuff was a real pain in the ass back in the day. We used to pretty much had to order everything out of catalogs. And it was a pain. And we didn't have very good ingredients. And I'm envious of homebrewers these days and the access to stuff they have, and I know they're doing fantastic things with it. So way better than the beer that I used to make 30 years ago.
But it gave you a good base for your future, for future stories.
It did, and so did my connections. The big thing was the connections that I had with the industry, is the people that I knew who worked in the industry back in those days. Because in the late 80s and early 90s, the craft beer community around Seattle was so small that it was easy to kind of know everybody. You didn't have to know very many people to know everybody.
Sure.
And so eventually, and it became that I was, even after I was a home brewer, I was still, I was an early subscriber to Beer Advocate, and I was one of the few people that had like the Northwest Brewing News actually delivered to my house.
Oh yeah.
Not just pick one up at the pub. I was always really hardcore about things that way, just my fascination with beer. And it came to the point where I realized, I know all this stuff in my head. And, people always like ask me, like they'll point and they go, oh, what's that beer all about? And I'd tell them where the brewery was and the name of the guy who brewed the beer and what kind of hops they had in it and everything like that. And I was like, maybe other people want to be this smart. maybe they don't want Kendall to be the only guy at the bar who knows fucking everything about beer. Maybe they want to know something too. Yeah. So that's kind of where.
So you're like, I'm gonna start writing this down.
Yeah.
I love the idea that you were making it and then, like, do you feel like your fascination mostly just transferred over to that side of it, like kind of spreading the information and kind of exploring what good brewers were doing at the time? Or was it just that it was difficult to source ingredients and homebrew and kind of just lost the appeal because of that?
Well, it lost the appeal because it was pretty difficult, and honestly, I got into making beer as a home brewer because I wanted to be able to drink good, interesting beers.
Sure.
And when I got to the point that I could drink good, interesting beers at some of my local pubs, I kind of lost my enthusiasm for homebrewing. That's, to be totally honest with you.
That makes sense.
And it became more and more difficult in terms of like the rental houses I lived in and the kind of equipment that I had. I actually at one point inherited the original Red Hook Blue Line system. Remember Red Hook Blue Line, the Red Hook Blue Line beers that they started doing? Mm-hmm. They did them on small scale on a typical what we would call pilot system now, a half barrel pilot system fashioned out of kegs. And I actually inherited it that one time. And it was really too bad because I was at that point that I was like, I don't really want to make beer anymore, but now I have like this really kick-ass system.
Can't let it go to waste.
I didn't really want to do it anymore, so I just kind of was getting dusty in the garage. And then I lost track of it. I let somebody borrow it, and it never made its way back to me.
Yeah.
I'd love to have the thing.
That's where it goes.
Yeah, that's super cool.
The reason I asked that is because like so I get asked a lot. I homebrew as well, and I don't do it as often as I probably should or could. But I do love to do it. But the thing that I have more fun doing is just trying the great work that other people do and like kind of trying to figure out for myself why it's special or important, whatever they're doing. And I know that I would never do work that I would find that kind of level of interest in myself. So I just like it when other people do it, and that's what I dedicate my time towards. I didn't know if there was like an element of that in your not homebrewing anymore and maybe moving more over to just expressing to folks who are interested why this is cool and interesting.
Yeah, for sure. The things that have initially attracted me to homebrewing were not just that, Granddad Hinton was a home brewer. It wasn't just that. It was, I loved the idea of the craft. Mm-hmm. That, I'd always thought of, the things that I was a child of the 70s and 80s, and to me, beer was this massive industrial production thing. So the idea that people were making it on a smaller scale and that it was more crafty and that it was more of a hands-on kind of thing was really appealing to me. And, I was an immediate adopter of craft beer when it showed up.
Sure.
I was waiting for craft beer when it arrived, Mm-hmm. So yeah, and you're right, and that's why I consider like the Washington Beer Blog. If we had a stated mission, we actually do. It's that we're here to promote and advocate the craft beer industry. Mm-hmm. It's not about anything else. It's about we're trying to get more people turned on to something that I love, something that me and my wife love, which is craft beer, and it's the craft beer industry. So it's about a passion for the product and for the industry as much as it is like a personal hobby type of thing,
Of course. Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to copy and paste your mission statement right to our website.
You also had a passion for music.
Yes, that's true. From the time I was very, very young.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started playing tambourine with the family band when I was like third grade, second grade or something. But my mom was really cool in that she wanted to make sure her kids had opportunities to explore things. Mm-hmm. Do you want to try ice skating? Do you want to try whatever? Do you want to try music? And I was like, I wanted to try music. And she got me, rented me a trumpet and got me trumpet lessons when I was in, I guess, middle of third grade or something, which is really young. Mm-hmm. So by the time band started in fifth grade, I was the best trumpet player in the school. Right. So that meant that instead of putting me in first chair trumpet, they were like going, here, you already know how to read music. Play this other instrument. So here's a trombone. Play trombone, and you learn to read bass clef and play trombone. Oh, wow. And it's like I'm in fifth grade, And it's like, and they already got me playing multiple instruments in different clefs, and I'm like, wow, okay. I didn't think of it that way. I was just like, okay, this is fun. So I got in. I played trombone and trumpet and tuba, baritone, horn, all of the brass instruments, and then I think if I had to trace it to one thing, then I went to a rock concert. I went to a rock concert, and I saw the lights and the stage. Smelled that smell of teenagers, if you know what I mean. Kind of smells like
Sweaty teenagers.
cheap marijuana. Sure. And seeing the guys on stage and the people cheer every time they start a song and cheer like crazy when they finish a song and sing along and some of it. I'm just like fucking that. Yeah. That's what I want to do. That was like I was in 5th grade, and then that bug got planted in me, and I had already started listening to pretty serious rock and roll for a 5th grader. I was already listening. I graduated by that point from Kiss to like Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin, and I'd graduated. So I kind of ended up putting down my horns after 7th grade, much to the chagrin of the music teacher at my middle school.
Those damn rock concerts.
But I did it to learn how to play bass, and my mom was okay with it. She even paid for bass lessons. She was like, if you're gonna drop your horns and pick up a bass, you're gonna take lessons, and you're gonna be serious about it. So I started taking lessons to learn how to play bass, and then, of course, by 9th grade, I was playing in the stage band at the school got into it that way. But still, it was all rock and roll, man. I just wanted to be a rocker, in those days, and I've never put down my guitar. I've still...
Did you take voice lessons?
Never.
Okay.
You
sing.
You've seen us perform, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah, so you probably know I've never taken it.
Well, it was raining really hard in 2015.
Yeah. Was that the beer festival?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What do you mean us perform?
I'm sorry?
Tell us about that. What do you mean
the
us
perform?
Yeah.
Who's performing?
I was in it most recently. I've been in rock bands pretty much my entire adult life, with a few intermissions here and there. But I was in a band called 4 on the Floor, classic rock cover band. Perfect band to play not your wedding unless you're like really hardcore bikers or something. We didn't play dance music. We played more like Black Sabbath and stuff. Awesome. But we did a couple of years. We did get invited to play at the Washington Brewers Festival, and that was a lot of fun. It was a big stage. Crowd was a little bit The crowd was like my friends in the beer industry that like turned around and actually saw me perform for the first time, like you, Ron.
Yeah,
we're actually kind of impressed and stuff. It's like wow, you do something else. It's like we kind of suck, but
right in front of you.
Were you right in front?
Right in front of you.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, but I played with those guys for 15 years. They're still some of my best friends. They were some of my best friends before I got in the band with them. That's why I got in the band with them. But yeah, we played together for a long, long time, 15 years. 15 years regularly. We could probably get together tomorrow and play a set just like that,
That's awesome.
Fun.
Oh, man. I can't believe it. It's already actually break time. We're going to step out, fill up our beers real quick. We'll be right back, so hang out for just a minute.
Hello, this is Eric Hanberg, host of Citizen Tacoma and a co-founder of Channel 253.
And this is Doug Mackey, the sound producer and also a co-founder of Channel 253 and host of Off the Record.
Channel 253 is about Tacoma and things that are interesting to Tacomans, and we are here for you, our local residents, to tell you what's happening in your community with food, elected officials, politics, all sorts of other things.
Beer, for heaven's sakes. And what say you gals may be on again, too. You never know.
So we are asking for your support to keep the microphones going. $4 a month or $40 a year helps us with a membership. You can go to channel253.com/membership to find out more.
And if you're a member already, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for hanging out during the break. As always, a shout out to Doug, our wonderful producer. Makes us sound awesome every single week. And to Chris for putting us on video. If you guys haven't yet, please do go check out Great and Grain Podcast on YouTube. You can subscribe and comment and do all that stuff because algorithm is king. But also, if you subscribe and comment, you can actually win some of our cool Great and Grain t-shirts. We're probably getting pretty close, so make sure you guys go do that. Plus, it helps us out a ton. And also, I know you guys heard it on the break, but please do check out Channel 253. Absolutely fantastic network of local podcasts. If you want to stay connected to Tacoma, that is a good way to do it. We all have new beer in front of us.
We do.
Ron, what is the barley wine?
For the third time, we have Lumberbeard's Year 5 barley wine.
I'm very thankful that we're drinking this again, but I have mixed feelings about it still being on tap because You guys are.
No, I've gone through the third keg.
Oh, never mind.
I keep buying the kegs.
I guess you do keep buying the kegs.
Yeah.
Now that I think
Third
about
time,
I should
5
already know
year?
that.
Yes.
Third time.
Third time.
Third
5
time
for this.
particular beer.
I was told there would be no math. God, that's good.
It is
They're,
delicious.
I would say, among the undisputed kings of high ABV beers right now in Washington. They do a fantastic
good.
job.
One of those breweries that nobody on this side of the mountains knows about.
I know, it drives me nuts.
Yeah,
And
there's some really good ones over there in Spokane these
they
days.
really do. We've talked about that a couple times. It's like they make a lot of great beer, but it's only really one or two that makes it over this way.
I mean, Uprise just won at the NABA. Uprise won 2 of the 3 IPA awards.
which is insanity.
Yeah, I mean, that's... If it was a brewery on this side of the mountains,
People
everybody
going
would be
nuts.
clamoring about it. You
Yep.
know?
Yep, but it's like one of the newest small breweries in Spokane
Yeah.
doing it. Their Pilsner game is also just insanity as well.
Yeah.
If you guys are in Spokane, there's just
There's a
hit
ton
up
of great
breweries,
beer
man.
over there now.
So cool.
Yeah, and then
I have a ton of stoop.
do you? I know. There's just a ton of
business-
stoop on the table right now.
I got Business Portal, and then I have a Mosaic Fun Buddies. What's it called? Studies. Buddy studies.
Fun Buddies.
Yeah, fun.
Sure. Sure.
Business time.
Business time. Yeah, and then I have a left-hand blonde ale with lemon zest.
On Nitro?
This fancy thing on Nitro.
On Nitro.
That's,
Yeah.
Sounds like left hand. Sounds pretty wild.
I also have the Stoop Business Portal IPA, and I was just explaining to my colleagues here that, hooray, Stoop finally cracked the code. They made a good IPA. like they haven't already done 100 different really good IPAs.
Yeah, every single one being better than the last.
Both of the noses on these like Stoop beers are they're incredible.
Like
it's like
explosive.
I'm in a hop field.
Yeah.
It's just a full Mosaic beer. It just takes me right back to like 2016. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Is there more soup over there?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's like, no, I'm
Get in
gonna.
on that.
I'm gonna.
Business time.
Apparently.
Phaedra, if there's any left, I'll take a pour now because
There
Bethany
is.
sold
Oh,
me on
okay.
it.
Here. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So yum.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
here
no
for.
kidding. That's delicious. It does smell amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Like you said, they finally cracked the code.
Yeah.
Wow.
Again.
Again.
You smelled it and said it's delicious. Then you
I meant to say it tastes and smells delicious. Tastes
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, you know how those things mouth and
Yeah, exactly. Thanks,
Oh
Bethany.
my gosh.
The grain and grit.
I thought it was cool.
It smells like we just rubbed hops with,
I
with
know.
that. Wow. Yum.
All right, where were we, Kendall?
We were out. We were
Rock
definitely
bands.
at rock bands.
Yes.
Rock band.
We were at
My
four on
illustrious
the floor.
rock and roll career.
Right.
I think we're at Beer Church, honestly.
I am in.
Yeah.
1998?
Beer church?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beer Church.
What's that?
Okay. Here's the quick history of Beer Church.
Picture this.
Me and my buddies. It's the early 90s. Me and my buddies are in a habit of every Friday after work, we would go to the same place, Azteca Restaurant in Eastgate in Bellevue. We were all out of college, home from college, living with our parents, getting our adult lives started and shit. And every Friday we would go to the same place, and there was always a huge crowd of us. Like usually there would be like 20, as many as
Oh my
30
gosh.
of us for Friday happy hour at this one restaurant. And my buddy said, we come here every Friday for beer the way that like Christians go to church on Sunday. And then he looks at me and he said,
It's just the
Beer
same.
Church. And I was like,
Yeah.
Beer Church? Yeah, interesting idea. Then we came up with the idea that we would start a public access TV show, if anybody remembers what the hell those were.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And what we envisioned was kind of like a version of, we didn't know what Wayne's World was at the time, but what we envisioned was something kind of like Wayne's World.
Yeah.
We imagined something like Wayne's World, but about beer. Just the two of us sitting on an old couch talking about beer and telling stupid jokes and just being dumbasses.
Mm-hmm.
And that never came to life. But then eventually, I decided I wanted to learn how to build websites. And Beer Church seemed like a good excuse to build a website. So I built the Beer Church website. Was originally just like a bunch of beer history, a bunch of beer information, crazy quotes that people had said about beer and all the stuff that was just anything I could find up to put onto this website that I had built. And then somebody came to me and said, I'm looking to raise money. got any ideas about what I can do to raise money for the American Heart Association? I was like, I don't know, we could have a party. You know, like we had keggers in college so to raise money to be able to pay our electricity bill and stuff. I was like,
it's like that.
I've experienced.
I was like, instead of raising money to pay our bills, we would raise money for your charity. And so we had this big party where I managed to get my friends at Red Hook, thank you Red Hook once again, to donate a keg. And some friends of mine in the restaurant business had donated a bunch of food, and we had a big party where we fed everybody and gave them beer and made it, I guess, like $1,200 or something for this one event. And the light bulb went on my head and said, "This is what Beer Church is supposed to be. We're supposed to be an organization that gets people together." Oh, actually, an unorganized organization. I like to call Beer Church the largest unorganized religion in the world. But our whole purpose was just to have fun ways for people to get together affordably and earn money for charity. And we started the first bowling tournament that I did, bowling party I did, was in 1998, and it was really small, like maybe a dozen people. Then the next year it was like maybe 24 people, and then 36 people, and then I met my wife, and she's kind of like a marketing and promotions genius, and she came up with this idea of we got to invite local bars and we got to invite local breweries to bring teams and make this thing. Wow, and then we just blew it up. So then all of a sudden it became an event that sold out the bowling alley. All 32 lanes sold out like the minute we announced it. Like as soon as we sent out the email, we were full. So Beer Church Turkey Bowl, we called it, was our annual bowling party, and I did that. Well, I started it in '98, and we did it. Other than the COVID years, we did two. We missed for COVID, and then Kim and I decided we were getting kind of burned out on it, to be honest with you, and decided so I was 23. We decided we were just kind of done with it, and we were going to give it a rest for a year. Mm-hmm. And then we passed it on to the new generation. So our niece and our nephew and their spouses are much younger than us, full of energy and new ideas that
That's awesome.
Ideas were a big thing that we had run out of. After doing the event for that many years, it gets kind of stagnant and stale. Mm-hmm. And we knew that the event needed to live on, but we weren't the ones to see it to move it forward. And we are so happy that they're taking the Beer Church mantle and moving forward with it. It's pretty amazing to think about.
That is so cool.
Man.
And I can't. People ask me how much money have we? Primarily, we have donated all of the money to the West Seattle Food Bank. We do the event in West Seattle, and the money goes to the West Seattle Food Bank because I've been a longtime volunteer, longtime supporter of theirs, and people ask me how much have you raised to date? And I tell them I don't want to say it. It's not that's like me talking about myself. It's like try asking Georgetown how much money they've raised using the Bombs Brown Ale, and they'll say quite a bit.
Yeah.
They don't want to give you the number because then you're going to go, wow, you guys are the best guys. It's not about them, and Beer Church isn't about us. So we've helped the food bank a lot, is the way I like to put it. Over the years, we've helped the food bank a lot.
Yeah, gosh, 20 years. That's.
You got to tell the Bobby Flay story.
Oh, God, that was the biggest clusterfuck.
It was Beer Church.
So it was Beer Church. So at one point, I guess it was around 2003, Beer Church, somebody at the Seattle Times wrote a story about what we do at Beer Church, the bowling event, and that story got picked up by the AP.
Oh.
So it hit the wire, and I woke up one morning, and back in the old days when your computer did this, every time an email was coming in, it was going bing, bing, you've got mail, you've got mail, you've got mail, this one after another. And I'm like, what the hell is going on with my computer as I'm rolling out of bed? And my phone rings, and I pick up the phone, and it's this gal that I knew in college just screaming at me about something. She was something about NPR and Morning Edition and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And what had happened is everybody picked it up. Everybody picked up that story off the AP, and Beer Church was all of a sudden we were featured on Morning Edition on NPR. Wow, they were talking about this crazy organization in Seattle that uses beer to raise money for charity and stuff. And the bing, bing, bing were orders for because at the time I was selling Beer Church stuff on the website. And bing, 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 there were orders coming in. And then the phone started to ring, and they were different radio outlets and calling me and wanting to have me on the air to talk about Beer Church. So I was on the air with radio stations all over the country. I was on Armed Forces radio.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Cool. It was really crazy. I was on with the stupid, crazy morning guys, the rock and roll morning show guys in New York and stuff. It was crazy. For a few weeks, it was just nuts. I was on every morning, and those were a pain in the ass because I had to wake up at like 5 in the morning to talk to these guys live on their time. Yeah. So anyway, that all comes to pass, and then things slow down, and then somebody contacts me and says, "Hi, we're the show producers for Barbecue with Bobby Flay." And it's like, oh, we're just wondering. We're going to be doing some shows taping some shows up there in your neck of the woods in this part of July. Do you guys have any events planned in that part of July? Like maybe a barbecue event or something? I was like, yes, we definitely do.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact,
that's crazy
we do.
You even ask. Yeah.
I'll get you the details. I'll send you the details soon, okay?
I love that.
And so then we had to freaking scramble to put this event together.
We need a barbecue.
Oh yeah, and she and I were still just kind of freshly together at that point. So she's like, "What the fuck did I get myself into?"
Yeah, totally.
So we ended up doing this big beach party down by Lincoln Park at a friend's house. And we had to drag in this big stupid barbecue across the beach because it was a high bank. It was high, it wasn't an easy access. We had to drag maybe 100 yards down this gravel beach with this big huge barbecue that you would normally tow behind a car or a truck, And then the guy that was doing the actual barbecuing had been out partying, I don't know, with a bunch of his buddies for a whole long week or something, and he comes back just in time. He's still drunk, and I think he might have been high on acid or something. And it was just like he was just out of it, and he's the one who's supposed to be cooking the meat and feeding everybody. And so we managed. I'm having to take this chicken. He would not heat it. He's like, oh, low and slow is the way to go, man. It's like, dude, we got television. We got to have that something to eat in like an hour.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to like chew on some raw chicken. Spit it out. Give me some mouthwash. Give me some beer to
kill the bacteria.
But Christy McWilson played at that event. Christy McWilson. We managed to get her to come and play. And do you remember Baron Brewing? Mike Baker's old gig.
Mm-hmm. Oh shit!
Yeah, they came and they poured beer, and I got Pike to donate a bunch of beer, and we actually. Managed to do it as some sort of it was kind of the spirit of Beer Church coming to life.
Sure.
And then when the show finally came out, it was like maybe a 45-second spot. Damn it! Yeah. So we were like, well, that was a big ass waste of time. So you live and learn, right?
Dude, I really respect that you're the grill master. You were like, dude, Bobby Flay's going to be here in like 30 minutes.
Oh, Bobby they didn't tell us until pretty late in the game that Bobby was not going to be there.
He wasn't even there?
You're like, I wouldn't have done any of this.
Wah, wah.
He was still just like low and slow, baby.
Flayed.
That is funny.
Man.
Well,
I guess that's kind of the punchline of the story is Bobby Flay wasn't
didn't actually show up. That sucks.
It was when I see the pictures of that party, it was really fun and it was really cool for all the people that came, and the cameras were there and the lights and the whole thing. And it was a beautiful sunny day. And my friend Bruce, whose house we had it at, is a master yachtsman, and he was taking people out on his little sailboat, his little dinghy sailboat, taking 6 or 8 people at a time out for little sails around the bay there. And it was a really, really great time, and it was a really, really cool party. And I remember it fondly. If I don't think too hard and remember it too well, I remember it fondly.
Honestly, it's like kind of poetically beautiful because it's a good reminder that it's still just beer, and you don't need to take it that seriously, and it is just a good time.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And you raised money though too, right? That was part of it, or
brought attention to Beer Church.
Yes, it brought attention. Yeah. I don't know that we really had a component in that to raise money.
But still,
brought attention to Christy.
It did. And I got to swap rock and roll stories with her, and I won. The rock and roll horror stories. She's like saying, I had to play, and I was in Nashville. Hers was like, I was in Nashville, and we had to we got a gig in a coffee shop, and it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. There was nobody there, and I'm like going, "Oh, sister, I got you beat." So I told her one of my.
Have you ever been to a beer fest?
No. The drummer. Somebody stole the drummer's van. The guy that came with the drummer stole his van, ran over his ex-girlfriend in the parking lot, stole the van, took off down the street. We're up on stage, we're rocking and rolling, and all of a sudden somebody comes up to me and goes, "Kendall, the police are here." And I'm going, "We're not stopping." Fuck that. We kept rocking, and then the police come walking right up to the stage. I'm going, "Oh shit, what are they here for?" And they come, and he just walks up to me, and I step away from the microphone, and he says, "We got to talk to your drummer." I'm like,
Can we do this later?
I'm like, "Stop, everybody, we're going to take a break." And then this whole story came unraveled, and the whole thing is at the end of the night, so the dude who stole the van ended up going to jail because he took off in the van. We were playing out in Maple Valley, and he took off in the van and drove straight towards King County Police Headquarters. So when they hit the radio and said, "We got a guy in a stolen van heading up Highway 167 or whatever it is," it's like. Yeah, he's driving right into the jaws.
Yeah, he's here.
We got him.
We got him.
So they got him. But
okay?
the whole thing is then at the end, we got back up and we played the rest of the night. We finished the show.
You're supposed to steal the van with the equipment in it.
Yeah,
He's not wrong.
I guess that's the only good deal of the story is that all the opportunities of the van could have been stolen when it was full of all the gear. But
Didn't happen. That's amazing.
The thing is the drummer in the end, who wasn't the drummer for much longer.
Sure.
Actually, he wasn't the drummer for anymore. But because at the end of the night, I look over to my buddy Jimmy, and I go, "Jimmy, you need to go in and talk to what's her name and get the money." So he goes in and talks to me and says, "She said she gave it to Ken." Oh. I'm sorry, I'm dropping names here, okay? Uh-oh. The names you've just heard were imaginary. Yeah. These were not their real names. Names have been changed to protect the uninnocent. So our drummer took off with the money. He wrecked it. And the van belonged to the bass player. So the bass player's van is the one that got wrecked.
Oh, no.
And the drummer took off with the money. So it's just like, and the girlfriend ran over and left the show.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, so it's like,
that's what I say. Is she okay?
It was okay. I don't think it was a very, very harsh injury at all, but I think she did leave in an ambulance, if I remember correctly.
Oh my gosh.
But it was just like, so I told Kristen McWilson this story, and she's like, "Fuck."
She tapped out.
I forgot she even said coffee shop at the beginning of the story. That's insanity.
I love it.
And then all of this prepped you for a lifetime of beer journalism.
Yeah.
Exactly. It did.
We got rock bands, beer church, and now.
You can always say it's not as bad as.
I definitely have one of those. It's not as bad as the time that I.
Well, speaking of which,
It's about time.
yeah, it is about time. What wasn't one of those times where it was as badass?
Yeah.
I think it might be time for a fuck up story if you happen to have one.
All right, Grit and Grainers, I'm Sean Jackson, and I fuck up all the God-blessed time, as we all do. So, please do regale us with your fuck up stories.
No. The only time I ever fucked up was the one time that I thought I fucked up, but it turned out I hadn't. That was my biggest fuck.
Those are mine too.
Yeah.
I thought it's not.
I've never
Actually, I'm perfect, so.
So I'm gonna give one fuck up story. Because we're gonna do another fuck up story in the next episode, right? So I'm gonna share with you the non-beer fuck up story because this is a story that is only known to my family.
Oh, man.
I just thought of this on my way down here for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh boy, I know.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
And it goes back. There is a Tacoma connection. My parents, like I said, they've maintained the relationships with all of their friends here in Tacoma as I was growing up. So when I was probably like 10, 11 years old, my family and the Myers family, one of our friends, we were someplace and it was a swimming party. So Jill Myers, who may still live in Tacoma, and she's going to really appreciate me telling this story. We all went in, we took turns going into the bathroom of this place to change our clothes into our swim clothes and then go swimming. And then afterwards, we came back and we all took turns going into the bathroom and changing back into our street clothes. And Jill's about the same age as me, and I went into the bathroom to change into my clothes. I changed into my clothes. I came out, and then Jill went into the bathroom to change into her clothes, and she came out still wearing her swimsuit. And the reason was she couldn't find her panties. And I was wearing her panties. Whoa! And which was hella embarrassing. and also, you know, kind of a little bit exhilarating. So, yeah, and I don't know why after all these years driving down here in traffic, I thought of Jill Myers, and I thought of, I think I was going through my brain about all my Tacoma connections and stuff, and the Myers family came up, and then Jill Myers came up, and that was like one of the most embarrassing fuck-ups of my life. Having to admit that I was wearing her panties.
Kind of hot.
Yeah, it was the best day of your life.
How did this get resolved? Were you like, oh shit?
Yes, that's exactly
Here
how.
you go.
Well, how it got resolved was I was the only person who could possibly have done it.
Oh,
right, Kendall.
yeah.
Kendall, your underpants are still in the bathroom,
and mine are.
Yeah.
Fuck, I thought these were fruit of the loom. Shit.
Yeah. And I honestly don't think I've ever told that story to anybody outside. My family knew that story, obviously, but I had not remembered that story until I was driving down here.
Thanks for sharing.
Can you describe hers?
No.
No, actually I can't.
But I do love how on brand it is that you were like, you got to like exit 137 and then a repressed memory from your time in Tacoma like immediately popped itself back into your brain. And you're like, Jesus, this is why I never come here. Yeah. Like as soon as the aroma hit you, your brain was like, hey man, remember all this shit that I made you forget?
The aroma's gone.
That's what they look like, not what they.
All right, Grit and Grainers, email us at cheers@gritandgrainpodcast.com with your comments, opinions, and what you'll be drinking on Beer Day Britain Sunday, such as a pint of Queen's Corgi or Crumpet Crusher IPA.
Corgi.
Chuffed Chaser Pale Ale, Haggis and Hedgehog Honey Ale, and of course, Dog Bullocks. We read and drink everything we receive, and we try to respond as fast as we can. If not online, then on air. You can subscribe to Grit and Grain on Amazon, Apple Music. My eyes are getting worse.
You don't have your glasses on.
Spotify, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. Please leave us a review. Also, check us out on Channel 253 and Grit and Grain Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for episode notes, beer news, and the reason why many of the wisdom makers and the wizened gurus of the world are always laughing. Why their eyes sparkle and they seem to beam out pure joy and love when they often have almost nothing in terms of worldly possessions, fame, or wealth. It's because they know the secret. They know when you are fully dialed into the moment, when you are awake and alive to your body and your life, when all senses are alive and the light illuminates everything to the point of absolute bursting. Well, there's nothing else to want. It's the sheer ecstasy of existence itself. Blood pouring through, heart aflutter, eyes luminous, body pulsing, air like the finest lambic, humulene in every breath. Far more than that, please join me. If this podcast is not what you expected, please alter your expectations. Why don't British beer drinkers ever get lost? Because they always follow their pub crawl map. No such thing as a bad time to visit Tacoma. No such thing as too much barley wine. This was too long. Tune in next Friday for Wasting Chatter. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us at Grit and Grain Podcast wherever you get your social media and catch new episodes every Friday. Cheers.
Get up.
Channel 253 is member supported. I'm producer Doug Mackey, and I hope you will show your support by going to channel253.com/membership and join. Thank you. Grit and Grain is part of the Channel 253 podcast network. Check out our other shows: Nerd Farmer, Move to Tacoma, Interchangeable White Ladies, What Say You, Citizen Tacoma, and Kitchen 253.
This is Channel 253.